whatever is my question in life, or what are my questions in life, they're working me. And if I allow myself to be worked by my questions, however beautiful or also uncomfortable it sometimes is, then the questions will pull me into more and more of a present state.
Welcome to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl, a podcast that illuminates the path to collective healing at the intersection of science and mysticism. This is the Point of Relation. The following episode was recorded during a previous online course with Thomas Hübl. Visit thomashübl.com to learn more about upcoming courses and events.
I think the beauty of our path is that we actually don't know where we are going. So on the one hand, we feel a call. On the other hand, we don't know where it's calling us or what even is calling us. And I think in that not knowing is the beauty of the path, because it forces us to make steps in an unconventional way, in a way that we normally wouldn't do because we need to pre-meditate or kind of know before where we are going. And of course, there are concepts like a divine realization, awakening, enlightenment. There are many terms, but those terms are petrified. They are flat without its energy. So whatever we would say to that question is just an image of a path that teaches us not to create an image. So that doesn't go well together. Like on the one hand, the spiritual journey teaches us, don't create an image of God. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. And so true emptiness in an ever-changing world is nothing we can form or grasp. That's why the beauty is in the intimacy or the love affair with the calling when we don't see the lover. So the calling is the intimacy with the lover that we can't see. And the cultivation of that love affair, that we cultivate that which knows something, even if it's elusive or the knowing doesn't show itself to the knower, to the one who knows. So the knowing doesn't show itself, but we know it's there. There's a place that knows something in the calling, like in the yearning for awakening or the divine or the path. There is a knowing, but that knowing doesn't show itself as concrete knowing, like where we're gonna go or where we're gonna end up. Because that knowing is actually here to dismantle the images that we made ourselves of the divine. Because as humans, we cannot easily be without an image when the empty image is an image as well. So many people say, oh, I understand, I shouldn't make myself an image, so it's like an empty image. There is nothing. But that's also an image. It's just a photo with nothing on it, but it's still a photo. So the practice, like the contemplative practice, to to be able to more and more rest in the space that is able to witness how my mind wants to create images, not to suppress that, because it might be also the part that says, don't create an image. So then I create an image of the part in me that says, don't do that. That's also a photo with a slab. So either it's an empty photo, then I say, I shouldn't make myself an empty photo, then I make a photo with a slab. And then I say, oh no, I shouldn't slap myself, then I slap myself again. So, and I can go on forever in that process. So that's why in meditation, we drop in enough, we slow down enough that we begin to see the play in our mind, but it's not anymore exclusively just my inner dialogue. It becomes like a bigger and bigger space that hosts the dialogue. Like suddenly the auditorium is becoming apparent. And so the beauty is that we follow the calling. God calls us, but the lover is invisible. And we just smell or feel the fragrance, and we follow the fragrance. That's the beauty of the path. And then more and more, the question where we are going is dissolving, and the walking becomes the thing. And that's when in consciousness, the karmic delay of cause and effect are more and more, or is more and more dissolved, so that cause and effect come closer and closer. So that's when the aim and the walking are not two anymore, when the question and the answer are not two anymore. So when the more the answer dissolves, but not like dissolves, I shouldn't ask that question. It's good to ask that question. It's very good to ask that question. Because denying myself the question is just suppressing it. Allowing myself the question, because the questions have to be asked. That's why they're there. It's like the question is attracting an answer, and if it's not being answered on the level where, on the superficial level, then the question is the driver of the path. The question is working me. So whatever is my question in life, or what are my questions in life, they're working me. And if I allow myself to be worked by my questions, however beautiful or also uncomfortable it sometimes is, then the questions will pull me into more and more of a present state. And then the walking becomes the walking. And then more and more wakefulness is here, is arising. So the less there is a there, the more there's a here. So the less there, the more here. And so part of our agency, when we mix this now with the other question, part of our agency is also that questions walk us. That we have that life has a certain question through us. Everybody's life is a mix between light, the soul's incarnation, and the karma of the past of the world. So these two together create by pull. So the soul is movement, the karma is gravity, or is heaviness, is weight, and in between there's a tension. And so that tension is what moves us, or what produces the questions. And the questions walk us. And the more we illuminate the questions because we want to walk them, then we turn those questions into answers. So we become a living answer. Not we find all the answers, it's not collecting the answers. Of course, we have realizations on the way, but actually we become the living answer to the question that we were born with or through. So we were born through the fact that life has a question, tension between the past and the future. And the more we walk it, the past and the future become presence. And so that's why I often say it's not just the physical walking, it's the walking. It's the congruency that the walking doesn't need to be defined by anything external, by anything outside itself. That everything is everything in its wholeness, not defined by something else. But that's not complete separation, that's complete unity. When everything contains everything else. So it's fully itself, but itself not as a separate sense of self, as not two. And therefore, the great traditions, and also in a way the misunderstanding of monotheism, is that the one God is not one God different from other gods. The one God is one God as a state of transcendence of deities. So it's a state of transcendence. There is no ownership. That's why it's one. It's not one compared to many. It's one including many, transcending many. And that's why the practice of me being able to witness how the temptation of creating a new image and a new image of the divine, and not to judge, because judging it is creating another image. So on that level, there is no way out. It's a never ending, as it's called sometimes, samsara. It's like it's a never ending wheel. So that's why establishing a witnessing awareness, noticing that process, loving that process, and at the same time also becoming wider and wider and letting it happen until it dissolves on its own. And it dissolves on its own. And with the agency, it's also that the energy that runs through our spine, some people call the Kundalini energy, the energy that runs through our spine is the flow of our agency, but it's also the question that life has for us. That's why everybody's agency is a bit different, because we feel drawn to different things. We feel drawn to different aspects of life because of the question that life has. And within that uniqueness is the beauty. Within that uniqueness of the beauty of the uniqueness. So we don't want to erase that agency or that uniqueness, the specificity of one's path. We want to let it shine. So to strengthen how the universal expresses itself through the specific, is very important. And that's where we get a sense of how we are participating in creation, and not creation happened, but is happening. We are in the process of being created, and creation is happening through us. That's why we have this spark of creativity that can co-design the world. And so in that co-designing capacity, we have, that's what we call agency. That's how we can form clay. That's how energy runs through different levels of energy, run through the channels in our body. And that's how subtle energy manifests itself as a world. It casts itself into a world. And our bodies are how subtle energy becomes world. And where the meridians or the energy channels are closed, that part of the manifestation can fully go through. And where it can go through, it can manifest itself. And that's why we do inner integration work. We combine integration work with practice. So I can practice, and I do the integration work whenever I hit trauma layers or inner shadows, to integrate those, to open up my vessel more, my cup. And when the cup's more open, more subtle energy can flow through and become world. And so in our inner work with the calling, it's also listening. When we listen deeper to the calling, to that which really is important to us on the path, like that which creates devotion, that which creates humility, that which creates insights, that which creates a pull. When I listen to that, many people feel that in their hearts. When I listen to that calling, and I practice in my meditation to refine my listening, to calm down my inner space, to listen to the calling more precisely. It becomes a deep source of information. So there's a beauty to listening. At the beginning, the calling is a movement, but then when we listen and we refine the listening, it's actually a sense of guidance. It guides us like a GPS through life. Because ultimately we do know something, but it's a different mode of knowing. I can create Excel sheets and project plans and projections and, I don't know, timelines for projects. So on that level, we need to know also something to plan and create. And that's not good or bad. That has a specific function. At the same time, the spiritual journey initiates us into a different kind of knowing. That's a knowing that is direct. But in our evidence-driven world, we need to detox a part of ourselves to again trust more and more direct knowing, which is different from projecting my unintegrated stuff onto the world, or imagination. Imagination is something else than knowing. And knowing is not knowing. Knowing is the openness to space. Knowing is an openness. Knowing is actually not knowing that allows knowing. It's a space. It's emergence. It's a different sense. It's a different initiation to knowing. So there's one knowing that I process the world and I'm able to create an architectural plan for a bridge. And the plan needs to be precise because otherwise the bridge won't last or work. On the other hand, that knowing is different. It's not predetermined by what is. And that's why a deeper knowing can emerge. And we don't need to argue which knowing is better or should be. They're not either or. They're all true in their way. Cannot, oh, this I should only know like this or like that. No, it's like there's a multiplicity of options, and all are relevant in their form. So it's not exclusive. It's all together. But the direct knowing has a very powerful source. Has a deep, allows us to allow information to emerge as if it was coming up from underneath the water surface in the ocean, and suddenly it shows itself. And for some people that comes up as deep sensations. We start to feel something and the feeling becomes a more concrete sense. For some people it's very visual. For some people it's like sudden knowings, and you know things. So there are different forms how that appears. But that's a very powerful function. That's direct knowing. It's a sense of direct knowing. But then the mind might come in and say, oh, I want to control what I know. I want to, and that's the point. That's not how it works. In the knowing, inner knowing, direct knowing emerges when we surrender to it, when we devote ourselves to it. And then we'll see it becomes more like a stream. It becomes a stream, but it's not one that I control. It becomes a stream, and my life will align itself with that stream. And then it becomes more and more of a flow. And there's a realignment process happening. That's why there's this proverb that says, at the beginning of the path, mountains are mountains and rivers are rivers. As during the awakening process, mountains are no mountains and rivers are no rivers. And awake, mountains are mountains, rivers are rivers. It's very beautiful. It's like...
This episode was recorded during a session of the Mystic Cafe, a global membership community with Thomas Hübl featuring live teachings, meditations, discussions, and Q&A, all taking place online. To learn more or to become a member of the Mystic Cafe, visit www.mysticcafeonline.com.
Thanks for listening to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl. Stay connected and get updates about new episodes by visiting our website, pointofrelationpodcast.com, and by subscribing to the Thomas Hübl YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share about us with your community on social media. Thank you. We appreciate your support.